everyone, this is Sasha bringing you a video tutorial today from BP4U. And today I'm going to talk about how you can make an adjustment here in Photoshop Elements 10. So we're going to create some new adjustment layers so that we can edit this photo. So if I click over here in my layers window, there's this circle and half of it is black and half of it is white. So if I click on that, it brings up this menu here so that I can pick an adjustment that I want. And so a solid color would add a solid color over top of my photo, and I can, kind of pick the color that I want. Let's say I want to add some warmth to my picture, so I'm going to pick a warm color. I'll pick a nice mustard color here. And then I could do one of two things. I could lower the opacity, or I could change the blend mode, and we will talk about that more in the layers window video. And so here you can see that now I have made that adjustment to my picture. The next one that we have here is a gradient. The most common gradient that I use is the black and white gradient. And you can use this in different ways, but you can see I've got some contrast now on my photo by changing that blend mode, and it's just added a little bit of contrast, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. The next tool or adjustment that I have here is a pattern. This isn't something that I too often use. You could just get a kind of like a textured effect to your photo by adding a pattern over top of it. The next one that I have here is levels. Now this is where I start to get into my real editing and into my workflow. Right here we have these triangle sliders underneath of my histogram. This is for the black clippings. So you can see if I pull that right, that it really darkens up my blacks. This is for my midtones. If I pull that left, it brightens my midtones, and if I pull that right, it darkens my midtones. And this is for my highlights, or my whites. Now this down here would be for the black clippings to sort of lighten up the blacks, and it also sort of gives your picture kind of a hazy look. And this would be for highlight recovery down here. And so the further left that I slide this, the less of the highlights that I'm going to see. Now I can also drop this menu down, and I can see here that I have red, green, and blue. So I can kind of play with the colors here and add red or cyan using these sliders here. You can see I can even add the red or the cyan down here by using these highlight and shadow boxes. Green or magenta, so here we have magenta or green, or I could add blue or yellow. And so I could play with all of these sliders to get kind of the look that I'm wanting for my photo. Or I can click on this auto button, and it will kind of automatically go through and pick what it thinks that would be the best settings for your photo. Now that doesn't make it right, or that doesn't mean that that's how it should be, but if you're looking for maybe a quick option, then that might be the best option. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. The next one we have here is brightness and contrast. Again, if I pull this to the right, it's going to make my photo brighter. To the left, it's going to make it darker. The same with the contrast. If I pull it to the right, I'm adding contrast, and to the left, I'm taking it away. The next tool that we have here is hue and saturation. Now my hue is a little bit unique. You can see here as I scroll through here, I am changing all of the hues of my picture. I'm going to put that back at 0. And then of course the saturation, if I pull that to the right, then I'm adding saturation, and if I was to pull that all the way left, I would completely desaturate my picture. And the lightness here is how light or how dark. And if I were to pull that all the way left, I would get a pitch pure black photo, and all the way right, it would be pure white. Now the fun thing about this box is that you can scroll down through here and you can work with specific colors at once. For example, the reds. I can pop that red umbrella and I can play with this hue slider until I get the kind of red that I want. Maybe I want to give them more of a pink umbrella, or maybe I want to give them a purple or a blue umbrella. The only thing I have to do is I have to make sure later that I mask that off of anything else that I don't want to see that on, because you can see it also changed their skin. And we will talk about masks more in the layers window video tutorial. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. The next adjustment layer that I can work on is a gradient map. And so here I can use the black and white gradient map, and that will turn my photo black and white. Of course, there are tons of other options for gradient maps that you can pick from. If I click on this, I can customize my very own gradient map. If I click on the bottom arrows here, then I can choose the colors that I want. So let's say that I went with like a pink color, and the top one here is my opacity. And let's say that I faded that pink out to instead of a white, maybe I could just do not a color at all, and I could completely lower the opacity of that and it would just fade to nothing. And so you can see how that kind of gives it a unique look. But my favorite one to use is the black and white here, because it makes such a really nice black and white photo. It's got just the right amount of contrast, and you can see that just the way that it is, I would be very happy with that as a black and white option. Unlike the desaturate, where you have to kind of go back through and add some contrast and play with the levels a little bit because it's very flat. That has a lot more depth to it. So the next one we have here is a photo filter. You can see by default a warming filter comes up, and you can see that really does give it a nice warm glow to the picture. There's some other options here. There's a cooling filter, there's some colors, sepia, there's some more colors. If you're not happy with any of those colors, you can click on this color box, and then you click on that color and you can create your own custom color. And then the density here is how much or how little of the filter that you have. So the higher over I go, the more of the filter I'm going to see, and the further left that I go here, the less of it that I'm going to see. By default, that's normally set at 25. The next we have invert. There's no options for that. It's just, it is what it is. After that, we have the threshold, which is another one of those tools you're not really going to use in your everyday editing, but it's there. You can kind of move this slider here back and forth across the histogram to get a different effect. And lastly, we have posterize. The further left that this slider is, the more of the effect that you're going to see. And the farther right that you take it, the less of the effect that you're going to see. So that is how you can make adjustments to your photo in Photoshop Elements 10. So thank you so much for watching this video tutorial. Happy editing, everyone!